Hey there, Pride Plant Girl here. It's a beautiful September morning, and we had a little bit of frost up on the rooftops last night or early this morning, but the rest of the plants are still looking okay. But we're getting to that time of year when soon I'm going to lose the garden, so I thought we'd just take a quick little walk around. I'll update you on a couple of things, and then I'm going to pick my dried beans. So that's the plan for this morning, so let's get to it. The first thing you might notice is these hanging baskets behind me are just looking gorgeous. The geraniums, some of them have gone to seed. They need to be deadheaded a little bit. I was trying to collect the seed out of them. I can't quite figure out how to get good seed out of them. But let's have a look around at some of the other things. So the first thing I wanted to update you on is these petunias that I transplanted in here. And the sun's not great this morning for seeing this, but I was really hoping that they would kind of fill in and really spill out. They're, the same, theoretically the same petunias that I grew from seed that I've trimmed them back, but like you can see how much they've filled in these planters here. But these were just volunteers out in my yard, and so they started a little bit later, and I don't know if they're getting the same kind of water and care and fertilizer as the ones in the pots are, but they grew, but they're just not filling in the way I'd kind of hoped for them to do. So I guess if I do that again another year, I'll have to give them a little better fertilizing, maintenance and that, and take care of them a little better. But it was still nice to have the little flowers and a little bit of pretty there instead of just mulch. I'll give you a quick little scan of the flower garden here. It's absolutely filled in beautifully. A lot of this just is coming up year after year now for me, either as perennial or drop seed. The dahlias I planted in here did not flower at all. Some of them didn't even come up. So that was disappointing. And I'm loving these purple asters. Gorgeous. And Liatris is always a good one. You see a little bumblebee sleeping there. It's usually just full of bees, but it's only about 10 degrees Celsius right now, so they're not really out doing their thing yet. You can see my garden. I have the tomatoes, peppers, and squash all covered up, and I'll probably just leave them. It's supposed to be cold again tonight, so I'll probably just leave them like that. The cucumbers are done. I'm going to pull the plants out. Mom and I came through and pulled all the cucumbers off yesterday. This beautiful rose is just going for it again with a second good flush, and I'll just leave these so you can see they could be deadheaded, but I'll leave them now and they'll get some nice hips on them. I believe this is a Morden rose. Well, here in the sunshine there's a bumblebee working these cosmos. Where'd it go? Back here is the sweet shrub. I planted this a couple of years ago. I'd said this spring how it's just not really, hasn't been doing much for me, and I wasn't sure what to think, but it got some beautiful blooms on it this year. I'm not sure, like it has a very nice scent. I'm not sure, a very strong, like perfumey scent. I'm not a huge fan of the scent, but it's not offensive. But I've definitely given it more water this year, and I think it is like that. And Buster's just gonna check it out here. Buster, you're kind of in the way. Hey? But you can see in the morning it gets nice sun, and in the middle of the day it's a little bit more shaded, and then it gets some late afternoon sun come through. So seems to be happy here, but not, loving its spot. But the blooms are quite different. It's nice to have something in the kind of a pink shade this time of year. And then when they're finished, you get these kind of seed panicles here. I'm sure I could cut those off. So we'll let it keep growing here and see if I give it more water, if it'll just keep growing and filling in. I don't know how much I've shown you this bed, but I put cauliflower, there's a few little beets and kale in here. It's very shaded, as you can see, even with the morning sun coming through. There's 2 big trees above it, so another hour or so and it'll be filtered light, and then it goes complete shade. So, but there's cauliflower, and I think they're starting to think about getting heads on them in there, so hopefully we get some nice fall cauliflower. I always find that some of the most delicious cauliflower, and they don't mind the cooler temperatures. So there goes pansies. They need to be cut back, and then they'd probably flush out nice for me this fall now that the weather's cooled off, but they were nice to have just along the front here. There were just some spares I had. And like I said, here's the cucumbers. The wind just beat them up the other day on this end, and we've had lots off of them, so I decided it was just time to be done with them. And then here's the beans, the dried beans that I want to take. So these are Lena's beans here, and then beside them are my green beans, the contender that I planted late, and they're just flowering, just barely starting to maybe get some bean pods on them. So we'll see if this late planting pays off or not. You can see the wind came through. Usually my yard's pretty sheltered, but the wind came through and kind of whipped them around too. I had this extra jalapeno that was just kicking around, so I'd thrown it in here, but I thought I was going to get it planted in the middle. I never did, and it's just done now. These, what was this variety of bean? It's a green bean as well. Harvest something? Harvester Mangiatudo. And you can see they were planted, I think, a week earlier, and they're starting to get the actual beans on them. They're looking good. So I should get a harvest off of these. I didn't cover them last night. I kind of thought they'd get enough shade in the morning that if they got that little bit of frost that they were calling for, that they would probably be okay. That was a big gamble I took, but it paid off. We had 2 different forecasts. One was for frost and one was for a few degrees above. So these are the black turtle beans. Some of them not quite ready. So I don't know if we'll get those picked today. Yeah, there's a few that are ready, so I might take a few off. Last year I picked them a bit early. I tried to rush it, and then they went moldy on me. So I want to make sure they're good and dry, so I don't lose my whole bean crop again. Oh, I guess Mom and I missed a cucumber, but this is the other side of cucumbers and sweet peas. You can't hardly see the cucumber plants on this side for the sweet peas, but they're yeah, they need to come out. I don't know. I think the sweet peas are just going to come out with them. I've been saving the seeds. You collect these seed pods off the sweet peas, and they're very easy to save and replant when they get brown like this. But let's get the Lena's beans picked, and then I'll make a decision about those turtle beans. I'm not a real bean expert, so I can't really tell you exactly what kind of bean these are, other than they're white and they're good for drying. So I don't know. You bean experts, can you tell from the shape? So they look like inside. So they're a nice bean. They work well for drying. I get them from a heritage seed company, and the story is that these were beans that were handed out here in Saskatchewan in the 30s as a food ration. And a lady named Lena saved hers, or a few of them anyways, and planted them the next spring and grew them herself. So I'm sure she wasn't the only one doing that with some of those food ration items, but somehow they were saved year after year through her family, and they're still living on now, being distributed by that company. You like my fancy seed collection container? Not my favorite product, but once in a while you need some for a recipe, and containers are handy. So I'm just going to go through, and when the dried beans are ready to pick, their skin is kind of papery, and lots of times the beans kind of rattle inside. I don't know if you can hear that. So they're dried then. So I'm just going to put the beans just right in. I'm not going to shell them all right here. wonder if I could pull these plants out while I'm going through. Save that for another day. They're pretty twined up here on this trellis. There's a little container full, and still lots on here. So this one here, you can see is still green, not at all ready, so I'll just leave it. Hopefully it'll mature and I can know where to come and grab it another day. This one's just completely empty. Okay, so I can't see them, but there's a few. Oh, like down here, there's one. That one's not going to fill out. There was some in here somewhere. There's one around the other side. Anyways, there's a few left here that are still pretty green. So I'll leave them and see, trying to remember to come back out and get them. Oh, there's one down here and there's one that's ready. I may have uprooted that plant. So we'll see. This one might have been on that plant. I think I just pulled it out of the ground. Might be on the plant beside it. So let's have a quick look, see if I missed any more. And then that should be it. There's one that was on the bottom of the pot. That's the one I shelled. Oh, there's one there. This one's just empty on the vine. These turtle beans are really, really close. This one down here is probably ready to go, but I'd say 90% of them are just not quite there yet. So I'm gonna leave this, check it again in a few days. Let's see what we got. So here's my basket that I got. I don't know if you can see there's some down there that I dumped out. There's some more. This one here has those few I shelled in the bottom of the bucket, but pretty good pile there of beans in there. This amount of beans won't be a huge amount, but it'll be enough for what we use. We don't go through a lot of dried beans, but I do like to have a few around for making baked beans or just cooking up with some rice or sausage or something. I just got a sliver off this basket. Ouch. So this will do us, I'm sure. I can make it work. And I mean, beans really aren't expensive if I need to go buy some at the store, but I do like to know that it's something I grew myself. When I store them, I will shell them out and I just put them in like a canning jar with just the metal ring, not the metal cover. And I just put a piece of cloth over the mouth of the jar and put the ring on so that it still breathes. And then I keep them somewhere dark and cool. And normally that works really well. Like I said, last year I picked my beans. I was just trying to rush them and I picked them a little bit too early. I put them in my dehydrator. I left them sit out for weeks and weeks and weeks in single layers. I did everything I could. I thought they were pretty dry and it still wasn't enough. So I think the best thing to do is just leave them as long as I possibly can on the plant out here and then deal with them after that. So I'll be spending some time today shelling beans and getting these put away. I usually leave them out for a couple of days just in a kind of open container and stir them around every time I go by them, just for a few days before I put them into a container, and that's what works well for me. Mosquito. Oh. So I'll just walk you through. You can have a really quick peek under the frost blankets. Like I said, we didn't get frost down at ground level. The ground is still holding enough heat. I think that it held enough heat up on the rooftops. It was definitely frosty this morning. I should have taken a photo for you, but I didn't. Yeah, the cold weather is definitely coming. So we'll have a quick look at those. I think they've done all right. I had a little peek earlier in the day, but it hadn't really warmed up yet. So sometimes things can change. And then I'm gonna get busy shelling some beans and getting on with the rest of my day. So let's have a look at under those frost blankets and see what's going on. So this isn't a frost blanket. I just kind of threw it over the basil thinking that it might kind of have the cold air kind of sit on the netting a little more than coming through. It's very light, but it's under the frost blanket, but just didn't come down enough just to give it just a little tiny more layer because basil's very sensitive to cold weather. And I just didn't have enough frost blanket and didn't feel like getting sheets out. It wasn't a huge deal if I lost the basil, but it was nice to keep. You can see the tomatoes in there. I mean, they're not super healthy plants, but they're not hurt by the cold at all. I never did pick more of these cherry tomatoes the other day when I was out picking, so I'll probably throw a few in my basket before I go in this morning. And then my squash, I have this crazy frost blanket set up that goes right back to the bed because I have I think it's called popcorn squash growing there. And I really want it to get to its full glory there, so hopefully it can get through. It's has some powdery mildew issues and I'm not sure it's the healthiest, but. And then I have a neon pumpkin in here. There's a little tiny one down there. I don't know if you see the bright kind of yellowy orange down there. It's such a pretty pumpkin. And then that's my sweetmeat squash. That's what I usually use for pumpkin pie filling, and it's, I don't think it's gonna do anything for me this year. A little trouble getting them started and a little disappointed. There's some yellow squash, summer squash there. And I have some green zucchini down there. They're looking good. These little kitchen clips work really well for holding these kind of fabrics together. All right, it wasn't a very elegant entry into here, but got some kabocha squash growing here, hanging on this trellis. You might not think it could handle something like this, but these are good heavy squash, but it does. And then my celebration squash just breaking for some reason. I think the winds yesterday think the winds yesterday broke some of these. Some of these were up higher. But I have 3 or 4 celebration squash in there. Starting to ripen. They're starting to get some nice color pattern on them, and they get just beautiful colors when they're ripe. And this is my butternut. I got it planted the same time as the rest, but there was potatoes in front of it, so it wasn't getting the sunshine. And I mean, it's just flowering now, so unfortunately I don't think I'll have any butternut squash this year. I was really looking forward to this, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. Back out of there and look at the peppers. And we did just look at these the other day, so they're still looking healthy. Like I said, I think my thermometer that I have down on the ground said it was around 6 degrees, was as cold as it got. So that's still chilly for peppers and tomatoes and things, but they did all right through it. There's the potatoes I haven't harvested yet. I never did do anything with this bed. There was just too much indications that the fall weather was coming faster than I was going to get anything to grow there. I have some beautiful head lettuce coming in there. Volunteer parsnips everywhere, and I've had a couple. Try to leave them till they do get some frost because they're a little sweeter, but I've had a couple. They're really good. These cabbage, I'm fighting the cabbage worms and the slugs. So I've been putting BT for the worms, but the slugs don't seem to care about pellets or anything. I just want these cabbage. So that I think is a Katarina cabbage. Oh, that's a stonehead. Oh, that is a ways that it should have grown a lot more. Yeah, the pressure of the pests was just too much. These are some later planted peas. Thought I might get one more harvest, but again, it's a little shadier back in this area, and the days are much shorter now, and it just wasn't going to be, I guess. Some lettuce is looking good. More parsnips and holy cabbage. I don't know how well you can see under this netting, but there's still a few cabbage. Some cauliflower that I thought would be heading up by now, but it just isn't. And I have a broccoli right here. Beautiful broccoli head. And I think it's time to take it. I don't know if you see the flea beetles get in here. They'll bite right through the netting, pierce right through the netting, damage the plants. It's ridiculous. Those flea beetles are crazy. But yeah, I'll probably be taking that broccoli maybe tomorrow. And one last thing to leave you with, because they're just so beautiful, is these dahlias. Just gorgeous. Most of my dahlias did nothing for me this year, but I need to do some deadheading, but these are just absolutely stunning. Orange creamsicle, I believe, is what this variety is. And I love it. Thanks for joining me out on this beautiful September morning for a little bit of time in the garden. I hope you're holding off from the frosts if you're in frost territory these days. You get a little bit more growing time, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.